I was a Nintendo kid growing up. The PlayStations were all mostly reserved for my sister, and the only thing I would ever touch on the Xbox 360 were those crappy Kinect games that barely even worked. Sure, the PS2 and Wii had all the greatest classics in gaming, but my stupid baby brain didn't care. I got Lego Harry Potter, I don't need that boring shit like Metal Gear Solid or Super Mario Galaxy.
No, Vamp isn't for vampire, it's because he's bisexual.
Then one day, my little brother got a fancy cyan Nintendo DSi alongside a used copy of WarioWare Touched. This game was just absolutely incredible to a monkey brain little baby like me. The gameplay loop was just so simple yet so addicting. There's so much charm in the characters and their limited animation. The art is so weird and out there, it was basically the perfect video game. Then I got New Super Mario Bros. And that became the greatest game ever for me, but that's not important. Nowadays, I really don't care much about Nintendo anymore. Not when they're dropping a fucking $50 Game Boy Advance game. I just stick to my PC games, which are mostly franchises that got their start on PlayStation, ironically. But man, that era of Nintendo from the 2000s to the early 2010s will always stick with me for the impression it left on me. So in 2014, Shovel Knight released. Hey, stay with me. I promise, I'm going somewhere with this. Shovel Knight kind of came out at the perfect time. A bunch of millennials who grew up playing the NES were having nostalgia for the good old days. And here comes this shiny new platformer that perfectly captured that retro style people love to remember. And it kickstarted a massive new wave of retro revivals and NES-inspired platformers. In an era where platformers were basically just seen as Mario because no one wanted to make platformers anymore. After it blew up, we started getting more and more pixel, retro-style platformers, and eventually some based on the N64 era of 3D collectathons like Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64. And this was great. Here's the problem though. I was a stupid little baby who didn't play any of these games. I didn't care about the retro Shovel Man. Where the hell is my Lego Indiana Jones and fucking pack picks? Nowadays, of course, I've played all these classic games and indie games and can appreciate them. Hell, Hat in Time is one of my favorite games ever made. But even still, there's this hole that's left to be filled by an indie game inspired by something that truly meant something to me, rather than just being a good game that doesn't really invoke any sense of nostalgia for when I personally was a kid. It's all for games that were before my time. Games I didn't play. That's right, you selfish-ass, independent game creators. It's all about Metroidvanias and roguelikes. Where the hell's my pack picks like, huh? But, in the dawn of the new decade, there was a bit of a shift in the indie game retro revival scene. As the younger kids got older, the perception of what they would see as retro shifted, and we started getting games with newer and fresher influences. One of these games is so unlike any other game releasing today, and it's called Pizza Tower. This game was unapologetically a Wario Land 4 clone, but more important than that, it was a really damn good game. And as much as miserable-ass Twitter users tried to convince people it was annoying because some kid made a Gmod animation or something, that didn't stop its popularity. After that, we got Anton Blast, a game that wears its inspiration so obviously on its sleeve that the main character could literally just be Wario's more evil cousin. Where the hell am I going with this? I guess my main point is Wario fucking rules. This motherfucker got all the best Nintendo games and no one gave a fuck until 2 decades after they all came out. What the hell? But I never grew up with Wario Land, as good as it is. These games are amazing, but still don't quite hit the spot I've been waiting for all this time. But finally, one upcoming game is going to hit exactly what I'm looking for. And it's Bits and Bobs, let's go! Game of the decade right here! I love Rhythm Heaven! Anyways, on a completely unrelated note, I was browsing my Blue Sky timeline the other day and saw my friend reposting a bunch of fan art for a game I'd never heard of. And the character design and sense of visual style immediately drew me in. After looking up the game, I found the trailer and saw it was heavily inspired by Warioware, and I've literally never been sold on a game so fast. I didn't even see there was a demo before I went to the Kickstarter and threw in my support. Then when I did play the demo, I instantly knew I made the right choice. The game? Well, you know the name if you clicked on this video, but for the sake of the dramatic reveal, it was called This demo, it just completely blew me away. And all it has is a tutorial in a single level. That's how goddamn good it is. MINDWAVE is an indie game created by fresh new game studio Hollowhammer, headed by Meguro224 as lead artist and game director. The basic plot is about this girl named Pandora, who's entering a contest run by some big corpo and their giant evil-ass brain tower for a $10 million cash prize. And the contest involves mentally linking with your opponent's brains and trying to beat the microgames that are created from the depths of their subconscious. So this is just really friggin' cool. It's basically Warioware, which is already absolute peak game design, mixed with Psychonauts, which is the coolest and most creative concept for a game I've ever played. Just the idea of entering someone's mind and seeing their thoughts, personalities, and history personified into an abstract gameplay context is the coolest thing ever to me, and any game that does it ends up reaching my top 10 because of how it directly attaches you, the player, to these fictional characters in a more personal way than you normally get in a video game, and it doesn't even require you to ever hear any dialogue from them. When a game uses that trope, it just always hits for me. Like, I don't know, it's just like the perfect kind of game for me. After the introduction scene, a tutorial, and a short section where you get to know other contestants, you get into the first level, and... the moment it begins, you're immediately thrown in and absolutely blasted in the face with this character's thoughts and energy, all directly translating into the microgames, which show you exactly who she is and her personality just through gameplay and visual context clues. This is Abby, a character you may or may not have spoken to before the actual level started, but that's what makes it so genius. You don't have to ever speak to her to understand everything she's about. Just playing through the level a single time will give you everything you could need to know. She's upbeat, positive, and filled with completely pure and unfiltered joy. She loves hanging out with her best friend, she loves cute kitties and bunnies, she's unapologetically happy and optimistic 24/7. The song that plays in the background gives you all that information through its lyrics. It really manages to perfectly encapsulate the mindset of this character who you either just met earlier today or literally never spoke to. And I think that's just a showcase of an incredibly well-designed game. But what about the actual game? It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a Warioware type game in its setup and basic gameplay. But where it manages to differ is the use of mouse and keyboard controls. While the mouse stuff could be replicated in a game like Warioware Smooth Moves on the Wii, the keyboard is something completely foreign to Warioware, and if this demo is any indication, they're absolutely going to utilize all sorts of combinations of both to create some very fun and unique microgames. After you hit the halfway point in the level, just like Warioware, you get hit with a speed and difficulty increase. Alongside the added challenge, you also start to get affected by a mechanic that's very similar to Wario Interrupts mode from Warioware Gold. Pop-ups will start to appear on the screen while you're playing, and you have to close them with your mouse to make them go away. Let too many build up and you run the risk of it blocking important parts of the screen. It's not a huge problem in this level alone, but after you beat it, you unlock an endless shuffle mode, and once you get to the higher levels on there, it gets extremely hectic. This level of constant stress is what makes WarioWare gameplay so fun and addicting. It's not the kind of game where you just run through the story once and play every level, it's the kind of game where you constantly push yourself to get better and better scores as it gets more and more insane and fast-paced. And this game perfectly keeps that energy up with its endless mode. This demo is only like 20 minutes long, and I already got a few hours on it just from grinding out endless shuffle. Now let's talk about the visuals. Can we talk about the visuals? Because oh my god, the visuals. The entire art style is this punkish, late 2000s, early 2010s style with super fluid and expressive pixel art characters and animations, and it just appeals so perfectly to me. The colors of Blackout City and the Mindscape Tower are full of these very cool oranges and purples that feel very reminiscent of Invader Zim to me, especially with how the architecture is all like warped and almost sinister looking. The character designs are all excellent too, and every character you can meet in the lobby has such a striking personality and design that just makes me really want to know what kind of levels each of them will potentially get when the full game releases. I don't even know her name, but she's already the greatest character in fiction. I already mentioned the music briefly, but I'll bring it up again. The lead composer for this game is Dorcas64, and what tiny bit we already have from the demo is so good and emblematic of the psychedelic weird vibe this whole game is going for. And I look forward to nothing but fantastic pieces from the full game. The music, art, and gameplay all work together to make the one level featured feel like something incredibly special in its own right. And I have a feeling it'll only get better from here. MINDWAVE and Bits and Bops are both games that finally managed to bring back what I love about the 2000s era for Nintendo, Warioware and Rhythm Heaven being some of my favorite games from them. And while the actual Warioware games haven't gone anywhere and likely won't stop anytime soon, unlike Rhythm Heaven, seeing a completely fresh new take on the formula with an engaging and interesting story setup is something that I think I really needed, especially as the main games have kind of reached a point where they've settled comfortably and honestly feel a little stale compared to the legendary older titles. It's one of the first indie games that's managed to really capture something that I loved from my childhood, like so many other indie games have done for so many other people, and I couldn't be happier that it exists. The game is currently running a Kickstarter, and while all the stretch goals have been met, I recommend you go give it your support anyway. The more money this thing gets, the better and better they can make it. The team absolutely deserves all of your support. There's a link to the Kickstarter in the description, as well as the Steam page where you can wishlist the game and download the free demo. It's definitely worth a look, and I believe this game will grow to become something truly special in the indie sphere. Now that we have Wario Land likes and WarioWare likes, where the fuck is my Wario World like, you rat bastard?